Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of VMAX. So today, we need to be taking a look at Morpeko V and Morpeko VMAX. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, a whole bunch of new cards have been revealed today, and it's time we took a right old gander at them. And one thing which we do need to point out right at the beginning here, which I think is extremely important, Morpeko does not have a Gigantamax form. And that means that we can say pretty clearly at this stage that Pokemon VMAX do not have to be Gigantamax Pokemon. They can be Dynamax. That seems to be pretty gosh darn confirmed. Our translation today comes from the lovely, well actually Google Translate, but a lovely Joe from Cerebi.net has been there, checking me work, so to speak, making sure I'm not doing a silly, as I like to say. So we'll start off with Morpeko V then, and what we see is 170 HP. For anyone that's paying attention, that makes it the weakest, the lowest HP of any Pokemon V that we've seen to date, lower than things like Indeedee V, for instance, which comes in at 180. So that's not ideal. It is a lightning Pokemon, which gives it lots of advantages. Thunder Mountain, Prism Star to reduce the attack cost of some of its attacks. Electro Power to do a little bit of extra damage. Cannot be searched out with Electromagnetic Radar, because Electromagnetic Radar only searches out GX and EX, and this is a Pokemon V. Does have the expected weakness to fighting, which could be a pain, because stuff like Pikachu and Zekrom see play, and they have a weakness to fighting. And the retreat cost of 2 is actually kind of annoying, though I'll be honest with you, it might not really matter, because, well, you'll see. You'll see. But what does it actually do? Well, the first attack for 1 colorless energy does 20 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, and 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Cool. It's 20 to the active, 20 to the bench. It's not quite Jet Punch that we might see on, say, Buzzwole GX or Pheromosa and Buzzwole GX. It is what Xerneas had, or what we saw on Manectric. Overrun, I think it was called. And 20 to the active, 20 to the bench is fine. But it's not stunning. And the problem is, you're a Pokemon V, right? You still give up 2 prizes. And you're just doing 20 to the active, 20 to the bench. Now, to be fair, Manectric gave up 2 prizes for the same attack, and Xerneas gave up 2 prizes for the same attack. And if we look historically, Xerneas GX has seen, honestly, not very much play at all. It's been a rather underplayed Pokemon indeed. Whereas if we look at Manectric, it's seen a whole bunch more play. But then again, Mega Manectric was really good. So maybe that's the reason why. Mega Manectric was a really good deck, but Mega Manectric had free retreat. You had Assault Laser on Manectric to do 120 if your opponent's active Pokemon had a tool. Most of them did. And then, of course, Manectric, the Mega, would do 110 while accelerating a whole bunch of energy, and it had free retreat, and you could use Rough Seas to heal. So what I'm saying is, yes, Manectric saw a lot of play and had the same attack, and people did use Overrun very, very often with Manectric. It wasn't exactly the main attraction of the card. It's really nice in the early game to start spreading damage around. Let's hope your opponent doesn't have a Mew on the bench. That would hurt yourself a little bit. But if I'm honest with you, it is nothing more than a quick starter attack, get some damage on the board in the early game. The second attack here, 2 lightning, 1 colorless energy, 150 damage. Choose 1 energy attached to this Pokemon and discard it, and then switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Oh, that's kind of cool. Do 150, discard an energy, and switch to the bench. Now, 150 is nice. 150 for free energy is good. Switching to the bench is quite nice, because you can then whack up something in the active for your opponent to deal with. I mean, maybe you throw up a Wishy-Washy from Cosmic Eclipse. If your opponent doesn't get a 1-hit KO and it's a 150 HP Pokemon that only gives up 1 prize, it's 180. It's definitely 180. Then you get to flip a coin, and if tails, you shuffle it back into your deck. So you can build some kind of hit and run deck with Morpeko here. Like we've seen before, I mean, in Expanded, people still play Hitmonchan as a bit of a hit and run deck, and there are a few people, I know, let's say the enthusiasm for this is fading a little bit, still repping my boy Donphan from Plasma Storm. Shout out to Darren, you know who you are. Still rocking Donphan, or at least has been recently. And you whack up some kind of Pokemon in the active to, well, just buy yourself a little bit of time. In Expanded, you would use stuff like Wobbuffet, which turns off your opponent's abilities. Maybe even Trevenant for a bit of item lock on your opponent. There are many different options for what you can do here. Keldeo could be used to block EX and GX Pokemon. You do have to discard an energy, which kind of sucks, but then by the same token, you're doing 150 damage, which is phenomenal when it comes to actually hit and run attacks. 150 on a hit and run attack is redonk. I mean, I told you people play Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan does 30. I told you people play Donphan. Donphan does 40. And even when you start building in extra stuff like, I don't know, Fighting Stadium or Martial Arts Dojo, depending, and Strong Energy and Diancie Prism Star, you're still not getting anywhere close to 150 damage on a hit and run attack. So my point here is, as a hit and run attack, it's great. But what we need to do is start comparing it to other Lightning Pokemon, because essentially you're doing 150 damage for a Lightning Colorless. And the problem is that if we look at Lightning Colorless, we've got other options. Now, before we look at them, I should actually mention we've got things like Thunder Mountain Prism Star and Tapu Koko Prism Star. And essentially the combination of them turn this into a single energy attack. Tapu Koko attaches an energy from your discard to 2 of your bench Pokemon, 1 to each. Thunder Mountain Prism Star reduces the attack cost by 1 lightning energy, and then you're stuck there with essentially a 2 energy attack, 1 of which you're putting on with Tapu Koko, and you're rolling. The thing is, as easy as this is to get in one turn, and it is it better than the alternatives? Because Pikachu and Zekrom, now alright, Pikachu and Zekrom give up free prizes, but they do 150 while accelerating free energy. And we've got Zeraora GX that gives all your Pokemon with lightning energy attached free retreat, but also for the same attack cost does 160. Now it can't attack next turn, but that's been the case for many Pokemon, and that's never really hurt it, so we don't particularly care. One of the other Pokemon V we've seen so far is Tapu Koko V. And Tapu Koko V comes in with an attack that does 200 for a lightning colorless. My point here is that when it comes to damage and using free energy and all of that, we can do better. We've got better attacks for free energy than we see on Morpeko. Unless you want to do a hit and run thing. And if you want to do a hit and run and switch to the bench, then all of a sudden, Morpeko V becomes really good. But that's essentially our conclusion here. If you want to switch to the bench, it's brilliant. If you don't want to switch to the bench, find yourself a better lightning Pokemon. There are better ones out there. But of course, the other thing that Morpeko has is it has a VMAX evolution. So Morpeko VMAX, then you go up to 300 HP, which sounds gigantic, but it's actually not that much. Now, there's a couple things wrong with this, right? First of all, it's lower than any of the others we've seen. So far, we've seen Lapras, we've seen Snorlax, and we've seen Meowth. And admittedly, Meowth also has 300, but that is the lowest of them. And the problem is that when you're getting up to, or down to 300, something like the Family Charizard from Hidden Fates, if copied by a Mewtwo and Mew, can just hit 300 damage and get a KO, even though you're using a VMAX Pokemon, which is supposed to not be one-hit KO'd by GX and Tag Team GX Pokemon. That's kind of awkward. Similarly, something like a Reshiram and Charizard, if using their GX attack, can hit 300 damage. And we've seen that, like Snorlax VMAX, they're not getting a KO. Lapras VMAX, they're not getting a KO. But Morpeko VMAX, they absolutely can. And frankly, when it comes to these VMAXs, I am being made nervous by any of them that have got 300 HP, because 300 HP puts them low enough that they can get one-hit KO'd by our existing Pokemon GX and Tag Team Pokemon GX. You have been warned. Now, good news is the retreat cost gets lowered down to 1, it keeps the fighting weakness, and for 2 lightning, 1 colourless energy, it does 180 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, while also doing 20 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's actually kind of cool. 180 for free energy is good. That's more than we saw on Zero Aura. That is more than we saw on Pikachu and Zekrom. Except for their GX attack, but really that's 200 for free energy, which you're never going to use. In reality, it's 6 energy, 200 to the active, and 170 to one of your opponent's bench. So it's not really fair to do a strict comparison on them. Tapu Koko V will do more. It does 200 damage for free energy, though it can't attack next turn. But then again, it literally has free retreat, so it's not a huge problem. If you can't attack next turn, it's not going to keep you up at night, put it that way. But you're doing 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench. And let's remember that Morpeko V's first attack did 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench. And you can be building up bench damage quite nicely here. This could work pretty well. So colour me a fan of Morpeko VMAX. My only issue with it is it good enough? Is this good enough to play over Pikachu and Zekrom? I mean, I haven't even mentioned Raichu and Alolan Raichu yet. For free energy, if it became active this turn, you do 160 and the defending Pokemon is automatically paralysed. Is it good enough to be played over something like Tapu Koko V? Until you get to the VMAX, the answer is no. If you just put Morpeko V and Tapu Koko V side by side, Tapu Koko's got 30 more HP, free retreat, and just a better big attack. If you want to be spreading damage around in the early game, Morpeko V is good. If you want to be doing lots of damage while spreading its VMAX attack is good. But the low HP and the fact that we've got other good lightning Pokemon, at least for the time being, seem to me to suggest it's not going to see that much play. So let's tentatively give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. I think it's a good card, or a pair of cards, but I don't necessarily think it's better than some of the alternatives we have, although do remember, we don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. But I would be rather interested at this stage, ladies and gentlemen, to know what you think about, well, Morpeko V, and, all this good stuff. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.